Hi everyone, welcome back to Information Economics. Today we want to introduce you the topic about channel coordination with returns or return contracts. So this will be a lecture that we start to introduce the issue of incentives. We have spent 3 weeks to talk about basic optimization theory and game theory. Okay, that will be our tools for studying the incentive issues. So in this video, I will talk about the introduction or the basic idea or the basic trade-offs, basic important things about the incentives. And then I will talk about one specific paper in the next 3 videos. It will be something about return contracts, about the model and analysis, and the findings. So we know that there are decentralized systems, and centralization may be very good if we want to get efficiency. Okay? In some sense, we know if there is a system that is decentralized, then the best thing we may do is to do complete centralization or complete integration. That's going to make the system as efficient as possible. But we will say that it may be impossible because each person has his or her own self-interest, okay? Or there are some rules that prevent people to integrate, something like antitrust laws, okay? So if complete integration is possible, it's good, but facing a decentralized system, we will not assume it can be centralized or it can be integrated. Okay? We will try to study those decentralized systems that cannot be integrated. Part of the reason is that if a system can be integrated, can be fully integrated, then there's no problem at all. That is optimal. So we will only study, or we are only interested about those situations that full integration is impossible. We will assume that people are all selfish and they do not act to maximize other people's utility or to maximize system efficiency. Okay? And then under these assumptions, we will try to design mechanisms to improve the efficiency. Starting from this lecture, we will talk about possible mechanisms in different situations for improving efficiency. Some issues under decentralization are the following. So, first is the incentive issues. In a decentralized systems, people have different objectives, and sometimes the system does not give enough incentives for players to act toward efficiency. For example, in a system, workers need incentives to work hard. Okay, as a company, we prefer workers to work hard, but workers need incentives for them to work hard. Similarly, students need incentives to keep their labs clean. Okay, from the system's perspective or from the society's perspective, we prefer clean labs. But for those students that are really using labs, they need incentives to make it clean. Manufacturers need incentives to improve product quality, like do not use fake oils as the materials. Consumers need incentives to pay for a product. If there's no incentive, then consumers will simply go away. So that's going to tell us in a decentralized system, typically incentive is the issue. As a mechanism designer or a rule designer, your goal is to provide incentives to players, okay? And through your mechanism, we're going to see concrete examples. Another aspect is the information part. Efforts of workers and students, the efforts of students, they are something we call it hidden. Okay, their efforts or their actions cannot be observed or cannot be verified. So that's some hidden information to the mechanism designer or to the society. At the same time, product quality and the willingness to pay or willingness to use are also hidden. Okay, so what does that mean? Suppose I care about clean labs, then that means I prefer students to exert efforts to make the lab clean. Okay, that's something I want. The key here is that I cannot reward my students for paying efforts. Like, I cannot monitor their actions or their behaviors in the lab and say if you spend 1 hour to clean the lab, I pay you $5. If you do it for 2 hours, I pay you $10. Okay, that's not possible because I cannot stay in the lab for 24 hours. So I probably can only look at the outcome, and that may not be useful because there may be multiple students in the lab. As long as one puts the effort to clean the lab, all others can be free riders if I only judge according to outcome. So actually the first part is just the moral hazard problem introduced in the case, and the second part is just the hidden information or the adverse selection problem in the case you just read. Okay, so in general, information issues amplify or even create incentive issues. Okay, the key is incentive issue, and when we have private information in the system, we will have stronger incentive issues. We'll see that in the future. Today, we will only focus on incentive issues, and starting from next week, we will also talk about information issues. So, if multiple players in the system have different interests or different objective functions, we typically say there is incentive misalignment, and our goal is to align players' incentives. If we can adjust, we can somehow adjust their objective functions so that make all of them have the same goal or the same objective. We say we align their incentives, and the system efficiency can typically be improved. So as an example, an employer or the boss typically wants the workers to work as hard as possible, but a worker always prefers to take vacations instead of hard working. Okay, so there is a very obvious incentive misalignment between the employer and employee. The employer prefers the employee to work hard, but the employee does not. So to better align their incentives, the employer must put something that can induce the employee to work hard into the employee's utility function. Basically, employee only care about the payment, right? So as long as you pay the employee cares nothing about his effort as part of the employer's profit. If the employee works hard, the company can earn a lot of money. But if those money are all taken by the employer, then the employee has no incentive to work hard. So that's why we see some sales bonus or commissions at employees payment. Okay, many workers are paid partly or fully, mostly. Many workers are paid with some bonus or commissions according to the amount of sales they generate or whether they meet some criteria set by the employers. Okay, so this is to induce the employees to work hard toward some objective that is shared with the employer. Okay, that is going to make employees care about the performance of the company. Okay, That's incentive alignment. So when there is no incentive alignment, we may see something called double marginalization. You actually have seen it in the past. So this typically happens in a supply chain or distribution channel, like this. Suppose we reconsider the pricing problem in a supply chain. The unit cost is C, and then the manufacturer definitely charges a W star, which is a wholesale price that is greater than C. Okay? And then the retailer will add something to the wholesale price to make the retail price. So we have one layer of marginalization and another layer of marginalization. We have two layers of marginalization. That's double marginalization. And let's make the retail price too high. Here, too high simply means it's inefficient. Ideally, it should be at some level, but with two layers, the retail price is higher than that efficient level. And both firms are hurt due to this double marginalization. And then we say this system is inefficient because the equilibrium decisions, in particular retail price, is too high. Okay? This double marginalization has been observed by you. There is another example that we want to address here. It's called the indirect news vendor problem. So let's see this. In another situation, there is a manufacturer and a retailer, and the retailer is making an inventory decision for perishable products instead of the pricing decision. So in many distribution channels or supply chains, the retail price is fixed due to severe competition or regulations. Okay, you just cannot modify the price, and all you can do is to accurately set your inventory levels so that as a news vendor you can earn as much money as possible. So the system works like this. First, the manufacturer chooses the wholesale price W, okay? And then the retailer, based on the wholesale price and the downstream demand, the retailer must decide the order quantity. So this retailer is just a news vendor. And then each of them will try to maximize their expected profit. For the retailer, the expected profit is this one, the retail price, which is a constant, times the expected sales, and then minus the wholesale price times the order quantity. And then the manufacturer's problem is simple. It's just the sales margin times the order quantity or the sales quantity from the manufacturer to the retailer. So in this particular model, the downstream retailer is just a news vendor, and the manufacturer would like to sell as much as possible. Okay, if the wholesale price is fixed. Okay, so this is the retailers and the manufacturers problem. If you need some review about news vendor, go back to see the videos in the previous week. Let's see whether this decentralized system creates some inefficiency. So suppose the two firms integrate. Okay, we already know if they integrate, then the system is efficient. Then in this case, they don't really have a wholesale price, and what they need to do is to choose a Q, order quantity or the production quantity, to maximize this particular function. This is the channel's objective function, and the cost here is CQ. Okay, this is just a very classic news vendor problem. And then we know the first best quantity is something satisfying this equation. Capital F is the demand CDF or the demand distribution function. The optimal quantity should satisfy this equation and determined by C and P. and the demand distribution. Okay, this is the standard result of the news vendor problem, and this is something we called critical ratio. Okay. Now, suppose we focus on the distributed or the decentralized channel. Then the retailer is solving his problem to find the retailer optimal inventory level. In this case, the retailer's problem is almost the same as the channel's problem. The only difference is that the unit cost becomes W rather than C. And then immediately we can see the retailer optimal quantity basically will be less than the first best quantity. The proof is there, you may go over it, but the intuition is very simple. It's simply because the wholesale price in equilibrium will be greater than the cost, right? The manufacturer wants to earn some money, so the manufacturer definitely will choose a W, a wholesale price, which is greater than C. And if that happens, the retailer is going to face a larger cost, and then the retailer will lower or the retailer will reduce the order quantity. So, from the system's perspective, from the channel's perspective, the ordering quantity is lower than the efficient level. Fewer consumers in expectation can get the product, and the fewer money is earned by the channel in equilibrium or in expectation. Okay, so decentralization creates a reduction on the order quantity and then introduces inefficiency. This is just another example of double marginalization. So, how may we reduce inefficiency? This, of course, is case by case. For different systems, we need different ways or different mechanisms to reduce inefficiency. Today, we will look at the indirect news vendor as an example for analyzing it and an example of designing new mechanisms to reduce inefficiency. We will assume complete integration is impossible. And then our goal is to adjust the mechanism or adjust the game rules to induce different behaviors of the players. Okay? And for a supply chain or the distribution channel, basically that's going to adjust the contract format. Previously, it's just a wholesale price contract for 1 unit, $5, for 2 units, $10, and so on and so on. But we may adjust the contract format just a little bit, and then we will see things will change significantly. And then the system may become more efficient. We will see this, how to do this. This belongs to the field of supply chain coordination, or in general supply chain contracting. It's about how may we design new formats of supply chain contracts so that the supply chain can be more efficient. Okay, there are a lot of papers, a lot of studies in this field. Today we talk about one. Okay, thank you.